On Communist Justice by J.B. Wolfe. For the reader unacquainted with Marxism, it may seem counterintuitive to suggest that Marxism does not advocate a specific theory of justice or equality. It is not true that communists see themselves as amoral or opposed to equality, whether of class, sex, race, or creed. However, such theories of justice alone, no matter how righteous they be, are in the face of the real world, mere ideas. As Marx and Engels would elaborate in The Germany Ideology,
we shall, of course, not take the trouble to enlighten our wise philosophers by explaining to them that the liberation of man is not advanced a single step by reducing philosophy, theology, substance, and all the trash to self-consciousness, and by liberating man from the domination of these phrases which have never held him in thrall.
to merely be conscious of or recognize injustice provides no realistic or practical tools for setting about fighting against it. Besides, for Marx and Engels, it is not ideas that lead the world, but rather historical forces. As Marx would argue in Chapter 1 of the Grundrisse,
the concrete totality regarded as a conceptual totality, as a mental fact, is indeed a product of thinking, of comprehension, but it is by no means a product of the idea which evolves spontaneously and whose thinking proceeds outside and above perception and imagination, but is the result of the assimilation and transformation of perceptions and images into concepts.
it is not the idea which emerges spontaneously from the head of any individual, but rather it is those perceptions and images which emerge from the social relations of a given society in the movement of history which bring about ideas. The communist does not place their faith and effort in the service of some imagined ideal. Rather, we place our faith of justice in history itself. The communist alone sees humanity in the very fabric of being. The contradiction of humanity and its environment is made only so because of their intrinsic unity. That which is found in nature so also is found in humanity, and that which is found in humanity is also found in nature. As Marx would write in Estranged Labor,
nature is man's inorganic body. Nature, that is, insofar as it is not itself human body. Man lives on nature, means that nature is his body, with which he must remain in continuous interchange if he is not to die. That man's physical and spiritual life is linked to nature means simply that nature is linked to itself, for man is a part of nature.
thus, humanity, and consequently human societies, are in every sense natural and organic. The term Marx uses for humanity is species being, denoting first our particular place as species in nature, but second the universal character of our species in being, that humanity comprises the unique and universal position of having our life and activity as our own object. History then can be understood as the unfolding of humanity in contradiction to, but also in unity with nature as its object. This principle is essential to the correct understanding of communist justice, because rather than asserting some imagined utopia, or narration of that which is just, which shall always be stricken by some realistic stone, as Marx would say, we find justice to be latent within nature and the development of history itself. Marx continues,
It is just in his work upon the objective world, therefore, that man really proves himself to be a species being. This production is his active species life. Through this production, nature appears as his work and his reality. The object of labor is, therefore, the objectification of man's species life. For he duplicates himself not only, as in consciousness, intellectually, but also actively in reality, and therefore he sees himself in a world that he has created. In tearing away from man the object of his production, therefore, estranged labor tears from him his species life, his real objectivity as a member of the species, and transforms his advantage over animals into the disadvantage that his inorganic body, nature, is taken from him.
the condition of private property then, and as such, humanity's coercion into the system of alienated labor, labor for another, is an example of the contradiction of humanity and nature in its antagonistic term, the negation of human life, Its estrangement to the alien idols of the state, the gods, and in capitalism, capital. And yet, if in the unity of man and nature there is a negative term, as seen in the hitherto existing history of class struggles, there is the dialectical insight that so also there is a latent development towards a positive term, a negation of the negation. Here, an illuminating example of Engels's anti-Düring will aid.
But what is the normal life process of this plant? If we take a plastic ornamental plant, for example a dahlia or an orchid, and treat the seed and the plant which grows from it according to the gardener's art, we get as a result of this negation of the negation not only more seeds, but also qualitatively improved seeds which produce more beautiful flowers. And each repetition of this process, each fresh negation of the negation, enhances this process of perfection.
So too is this organic process of perfection consistent with history, as Engels himself makes explicitly clear a few passages later. The outcome of class struggle in each succeeding era is the movement towards the final realization in the ingenious soil of the people of emancipation. What then is communist justice? First, it is faith in the evidence of the dialectical materialist outlook, pointing towards the negation of class struggle in the proletarian class and restoration of humanity to its species being. As Marx would emphasize,
this communism, as fully developed naturalism, equals humanism, and as fully developed humanism equals naturalism. It is the genuine resolution of the conflict between man and nature and between man and man, the true resolution of the strife between existence and essence, between objectification and self-confirmation, between freedom and necessity, between the individual and the species. Communism is the riddle of history solved, and it knows itself to be this solution.
Second, it is loyalty to the fighting organ of the working class in seeing through the imminent social revolution. As argued by Marx and Engels in the Manifesto, the working class cannot act as a class except by constituting itself into a political party distinct from and opposed to all old parties formed from the propertied classes. Society is in organic motion towards the social revolution against the banksters, oligarchs, and bureaucrats of the imperialist state at all times. Yet, just as in Engels' example, the victory of humanity in the final battle is procured and perfected only by the gardener's art. This is the role of the Communist Party. To apply the insight of Marxism to, as Chairman Has al-Din of the American Communist Party would say, acquire knowledge about the laws governing the historical development of societies, and thereby use those laws for the advantage of the working masses of people. It is only under the banner of an organized and theoretically robust party of the working class, such as the American Communist Party, that a communist pursue justice.